Okay, basically we're going to be designing this the C100. The best way of designing this would be probably doing it in separate pieces and then putting it together using the union command to create the actual part. You can start from any side you like, or yeah, you can pretty much, I'm going to start with the base right here, add this cylinder and add this rear back as a separate piece. All three pieces will probably be placed together and then we can create the whole part. There is some math in doing this, so keep an eye on that. Basically, we're going to start out with the top view, so we go back to view, we do top. We're going to create this, let me show you guys on this bottom portion here. So it's pretty much a rectangle with a circle and an arc on the outside. So we go with rectangle, we click on the screen, we type in D for dimension. Our width will be, well, we can do it from the center of the circle. Doesn't matter because it'll be 75 by the overall depth is 60. So this should be 75 and that should be 60. If you're not too comfortable with what you created, you can verify by doing that. The only problem is here, this drawing is in millimeters and we are doing it in inches. That's why my dimensions are not set for millimeters. So if I'm typing in 75, it becomes inches. So what I advise for everyone to do is go to where we are, format units. Instead of inches, we go into millimeters. And we click OK. Now we can go back to the rectangle. Again, click on your screen. D for dimension. Mine was 75 by 60. Placing it, annotate, verifying this. 75, correct. And now I'm going to do this arc here. The arc is pretty simple. You do a 3-pointed arc. Where are we, arc? So 3-pointed, like so. And you know what? I'm gonna have to change this. So I drag the center of the arc, make sure it snaps onto the line, and then you adjust the back too. Create your arc. Now you can explode the rectangle because it doesn't have to be a complete solid object because we need to use the center as our circle. So the option would be to, actually we can just add the circle now. So circle, we'll create a circle right at the center of this line. Making sure our midpoint O snap is active. We select it there, we type in R for radius because that's specifying a radius of, oh wait, so we are default radius. Radius is the default, diameter would be the option. If we want to get diameter, we have to type in D, enter, and then we're going to type in 10. So we left it as radius, and the radius is 10. I'm going to explode this rectangle I created. I go and select it. I go to modify. There is a explode tool. We explode that and we move that line. So we get something like this, and from here we can just do press pull. That's if it takes it. Oh, it's not. Okay. I'm gonna, oh, we need a single solid object to do the press pull from. So we can't really do the press pull at this moment. So instead, we'll have to use the extrude for this part. Problem with that is that it's no longer a solid line or a polyline, as you can see. Here, I'll show it to you guys. They're all segmented lines, and extruding that will not allow us to create a solid object. It will pretty much extrude each line separate. So we have to resolve that issue, and to do so, what I recommend doing is using the command region. So let's So now we make it a region. To do that, what you want to go to is to draw. There's an arrow next to it, and there's a region command. You can also type it in if you can't find it. That also works. So you select region. We select the entire object as we have created. We click enter or space to accept it. And now we can use the press pull command. Well, guess it doesn't want to press pull, so we can use the extrude command. And we'll extrude it up. Now the option is to either extrude the big part or you can extrude the cylinder first. I recommend doing the cylinder first because it's going to be too hard to select after you create the big cylinder, big part. So create the cylinder first, use the extrude command, do that, and then extrude the second portion, which is this main portion, at which we do have a dimension for, and it's going to be 15. Once you have these two parts, you use the subtract command. You subtract from the large part, you click enter. You select the cylinder, you click enter. That creates your first fundamental design. Second part, I'm going to pretty much create every segment of this one big part on a top view, and then I'll rotate it around using the rotate gizmo. I think it's the easiest way of doing it. Now, if you don't agree with me, please leave now. Alright. So we start a line command where you're going to create the triangle that's right on top of here. To do that, I'm just going to use a line command. I'm going to do a horizontal line that is 25. The overall height, using a little math here. Actually, I want to make sure I'm on the top view. Using a little bit of math, I discovered that it's 35. Am I right? 30? No, I think it's 45. It's 45. 45, and we close it up. Also, we need to create this at, well, actually, we can try press pulling it. Now we can press pull because we already have something that's 3D. Normally, press pull won't work until you have something on the screen that's 3D, so it can figure out which way it's press pulling or extruding out. And our thickness for this is 10. Now to do the quick placement of this part, all you have to do is select it, change your move gizmo into rotate gizmo. We rotate it based on, for me it's the x-axis. I have to make sure my ortho is on because otherwise I risk the chance of creating a weird not a 90-degree angle. And then all we have to do is move it based on the midpoint of the back to the midpoint of the top here. Now the way I have my default setup is that they leave my 2D sketch as I create a 3D object. You can change that, you can remove that, so every time you design from a 3D part from a 2D part, you could remove the 2D part by setting up a del object. So you have to type in DEL OBJ, and you could set it from a value higher than 1 to 0 where there is no data left behind. So I put 0. If I had a rectangle now, rectangle, and I did my extrude command, and if I move it over, oh man, I think it's 1 that has to be deleted. So that's del object of 0, so I don't delete any object. Del object of 1, I'm going to do the same exact thing, extrude, move it over, it disappears. So that's it. Del object 0 means it won't delete anything. Del object 1, it will delete the first sketch. And I'm not quite sure what the other del objects are because it goes up to as many numbers as you can plan.
So
but
you should do that before you do a press pull, or?
You would. Okay, so that's the first segment of the part. My next option is I can do the cylinder. It's pretty easy. It's 2 circles. One is diameter of 60. And the center circle of this is a diameter of 40, and I can use the press pull of a height of 60. So that's my second part. I can, if I want to, I can actually move it over. I would have to select the center of the bottom. So you have to look for that center circle that shows, and it even gives you the information there. You click on that snap, center snap, and you place it at the midpoint. It's the midpoint here. Yeah, it's the midpoint here. So now what I realized is my triangle's off. That should be in the front. Oh, it's radiused. That's not good. And then we'll just move this triangle forward, which now I've realized that we're going to have to adjust this a little bit here. Making sure I have the quadrant active, I'm going to place that to the quadrant. Maybe is there a gap on the drawings? You can't tell. Alright, we'll fix this later. But, so we have the second part. Now the final part is the back. There's a few ways you can do this. You can draw it based on the top view or a left side view. It's really up to you how you want to do this. But I'm going to do it from the top view since I'm doing everything on top view. Pretty simple. So rectangle once more. This one is going to be 75. So D enters 75 by 60. Pretty much the same as before, and even the height is the same. So extrusion is 15. And from there I can create this second sketch, which is the shape of like a T. This one I have to actually draw out, so I have ortho active. I type in 60, 15. This doesn't specify, so I can do the math. So 30 divided minus 5, 25. This is about 10, 25. I close it up. So there's my part. I'll press pull it. But this one gets press pull a bit higher. It is going to be 30. I'm going to move it over based on that. The midpoint to the midpoint. And once more, I'm going to take this part, these two parts actually, I'm going to move them over from the midpoint to the midpoint of the circle. I guess I missed the parts. Except for the height is a bit higher. They're a little bit in the space because they're actually supposed to be flush on top, not at bottom. So what I can do is I can move it up based on this part here to the top center. Okay, so once you have this completed, we realize that our triangle, if I zoom in here, maybe you guys can see it on my screen, that there is a gap. We don't want this gap. So to fix this, we need to use a new command. It's called the extrude face. You want to rotate around to see the back of that triangle because that's going to be the face we're going to extrude out. And to do that, we go into our solid. Well, actually, maybe where's solid? Where is it? Oh, here we go. Solid, where it says taper faces, we go to extrude faces. We select that face we want to extrude, and we can just draw a line on how long we want to extrude it. I'm just gonna, it doesn't matter because we're gonna cut all this material out, but that's what just happens. You guys can see. So I went to solid tab. Under the taper faces, there's an extrude face. We select that face in the back, and we extrude it out back here, this way, giving us.
What did you select? You just select these?
What's up?
When you were extruding?
Once you have all this complete, you're gonna make a copy of only the three, not the 3D parts, all the parts that you're using. Because I always like to have a copy in case I need to change something, I can go back to it before I unioned it. Because once you union it, it's really difficult to edit. That's why I always recommend making a copy of it. It's not going to hurt to have a copy of something simple like this. Especially since I just realized we didn't finish the project. We still need to create the cutouts in the back of those here. So let's do that right now before I make that copy. Go to my home tab. I'm going to create a circle on this face, making sure my UCX is facing that way. So I have to change my UCX. There's another way you can do this. You can go to a view. Like for this one's going to be a left view, so I'm going to go left. It's going to place my item on my left view, and I can change the UCX by going into my home tab. There is a option for, actually it preset. You can change it here to left, or you can change it based on the view you're currently in. So it's unnamed, or I can do the left. That way I have full control of the UCX. From here I can draw the circles or the cutouts. You can draw one right here. The diameter is 16, and to figure out how use the move command to move it down. So I'm going to use move, going down 15, and it's across. I should have done it from the center, but it's going to be 12.5. Thank you. And then I'm just going to extrude this out, or you can press pull it. But if you press pull, you have to draw another circle. So if you extrude it out, you can just mirror it over. Both will work. It's up to you what your preference is. I'm going to extrude it out not to bypass this cylinder, otherwise I will cut into it. And I'm going to mirror this over based on the center points of this rectangle here, like so. Using the subtract command, I subtract both these cylinders from the back. That gives me my final part, except now I have to union it and subtract any part I do not need. So I'm going to make a copy of this before I union. I union it together. Oops, didn't go through. Union. Becomes one piece. And from there I'm going to create a circle on my top plane. To do that, I have to change my UCX to top, or top view. And I'm going to create a circle based on the center circle. So that's going to be tricky. As you move around, if you select the edge, you will see a little cross show up in the center. Sometimes that is enough to grab it. Other times it may not work, or you might try it from the bottom. Or I got the center point of here. That works too. And I can use the press pull command. It's going to take the whole. It's going to extrude instead. Extrude it all the way out and just subtract it from this piece here, creating my final part. Okay, so in this video there is an issue. The drawings I printed out were not as accurate, or I couldn't see it. The front is actually smaller. It's 23 radius, not as I specified as 60. So if you are doing this video, you did it wrong. Hopefully you went by the drawings. That's all right. If you did it this way, it's fine as well. Not a big deal. So once we have this completed, what we want to do is you can save the reminder parts, the old parts, as an old drawing, as a different drawing, or what you can select is all this detailed information. You select all of it, you right click, and you type in, you select isolate and hide objects. So if you ever need to go back to it, you right click, isolate, and object isolation, and that will come back. So it's a good trick, especially when you're working with multi-parts where you want to hide one portion as you're working with one part. Then it's helpful. So I have this part. Now I need to do is use the flat shot command. I'm going to start out with the top. Type in flat shot. Select create. It creates. I select a placement on the screen. Type in 1, enter, and I'll zoom out. Based on my rotation, you can see it creates a top view of the part. I go into the front view, do the same, flat shot, create, click on the screen, enter, and place it. And finally, I do the right side. Oh, sorry, that was changing that. I go right side here, right view. Yeah, just verifying that it is the correct, accurate one. And once more, flat shot, create, click, enter, click. So now I have these three parts. They're somewhere in space, so I need to rotate them around so they're all in the same kind of rotation, or they're all in the top view or the front view, depending on what you prefer. So using the rotate gizmo, I can rotate it around. There we go. And then finally, I just move them around so they actually match up. You can use the move command, or you can use the gizmo that has the move command in it also. So now I have the 2D drawings and a 3D drawing of the part. Usually the 3D drawing I move away, because when I do the viewports, it doesn't interfere with the viewport. There we go. So now when you're in your layout, I didn't set mine up, but you would create a viewport for the 2D drawing, making sure I'm in the top view. Where am I here? Single viewport view. So you want to go into your top view, so you go to top view. You can zoom into the location, and then of course you can specify the actual scale of the viewport, and of course you will also need to add one more viewport for the 3D part or 3D view. You can change that into an isometric. Now, which one do I always use? Northwest? No. Southeast? Yeah, southeast is what I usually use. Of course, you would have your title block with all your information and dimensions showing all the scales of the part. If you do not want it into 2D, or you want some additional hidden lines or change some layers, what you can do is go back to your drawing and you can explode these parts. Explode and specify layers as needed. You may need to explode it twice. Depending, no, they're all one piece. So you can change the layers as needed. And that concludes the tutorial for the C100.